Today I'm going to be giving you my most disappointing players in the 2023 season for each team. Before we get into this video though, I want to remind you I will be doing a jersey giveaway when we hit 1,000 subs. So help me get there as soon as possible and I will do that. Also, make sure you check out our new podcast on the channel, Tuesday Night Takes. Me and a friend go through the NFL on a weekly basis. Check it out and let's get right into this video. Starting off this video, we're going to go with the Green Bay Packers to start with. We're going to go by division here. I'm going to say Aaron Jones. He just wasn't able to stay on the field after having a really good year last year. And the most of the season when he was on the field, he didn't even look that great up until the very end. So it sucks to see. Aaron Jones is a really likable player, and he just wasn't able to get it done this year. The Bears, in my opinion, it's got to be Darnell Mooney. He showed flashes as a good receiver for a few years, and this year, the year that they get DJ Moore, for some reason it makes his job harder, and he gets worse. I don't really understand how that happens. He looked like a pretty solid, upside receiver a year or two ago, but just anymore, he kind of ran his course. After that, we'll go to the Lions. This one's tough because this whole team, in my opinion, overachieved. It's hard to pick a guy to say underachieved or disappointed this season. I'd have to go with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, simply because he wasn't able to play and would have been a big part of that defense if he was able to. Moving on from there, we've got obviously the Vikings left in this division. And this is it just kind of has to be Cousins and Jefferson. I mean, when you have your best two players effectively go out for the season with injuries, especially on offense, in an offensive league, you're not going to really be able to win much. And, they won some games they probably shouldn't have with Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins and whoever else, but it just wasn't going to happen the same way without Cousins or Jefferson. So that's going to have to be who it is for that division. Moving to the NFC East, we have the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm going to give it to two players. One, Trevon Diggs, because it sucks that he got hurt, but at the same time, I don't want to just give it to a guy who only got hurt, because that's not really fully true. I'm going to give it to Brandon Cooks as well. Just not as good of a season as I think a lot of us hoped he'd have. He's a good receiver. He's proven that in the past, but just didn't do anything. And honestly, might have wished he was with the Texans if they didn't have, a clear-cut number one like they hadn't had all season, though they had good receivers play. Moving on from them, the Giants. I'm going to give them John Michael Schmitz, who just wasn't a very, effective player. He didn't play super well the most of the season, and Deonte Banks the same way. Two rookies, neither of them played super well. Can you attribute that to a lot of difficulties from their team success not being the highest? Absolutely. It's probably a lot of it, honestly. I don't think they're bad players. I just think we got to see more of them, and I wish we saw more this year from them. After that, the Eagles. I'm going to give it to Jalen Hurts because, the turnovers were just a lot higher than they had to be. You had this guy have a good number of touchdowns and a few interceptions every year, and this year it shot up to 15 picks. That's just not good, man. You got to fix that. So he's going to have to win it for this. And the Commanders, every single player. Not one player was really overachieving. Pretty much everyone disappointed on that team. Going to Atlanta to see the Falcons, we have, I'm going to say Bijan Robinson. Yeah, he had a good year. Over 1,000 scrimmage yards. That's awesome. The utilization sucked, though. You have to be disappointed in that. It's just, there's nothing that you can say about it other than, yeah, he only had the ball a few times, it seems like, but he made it work when he did. But he should have had the ball way more. There's just no reason he shouldn't have. And that got his coach fired. The Panthers, it's going to be Bryce Young. Yeah, he didn't have a lot to work with, but man, it was rough. The O-line in Carolina isn't that bad, and the receivers aren't great, but you got to do something better than you did. And he just didn't, and that's not all on him for sure, but either way. The Saints, I'm going to give it to the RB room. Jamal Williams had a really good year in Detroit last year, didn't do really anything for this season. And then Alvin Kamara missed a few games from his suspension, but then came in and just, wasn't really himself, it didn't look like. Alvin Kamara looks like he's going to be probably closer to the end of his career than not. Either way. Moving on, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and this one, I'm giving it to Devin White. It just seems like that guy climbed the ranks of middle linebackers so fast in his early part of his career, and since then, he has just plummeted. This guy just seems to get worse and worse every year. He's not bad, but I don't know how he's any kind of good. He's just kind of in that middle tier of, he'll play him, I guess, but that's about it. It's just not really good to see. The next division is going to be the NFC West, and we're going to start in Seattle. And this one, if I can find it, I'm going to give it to Geno Smith. He just didn't have the year a lot of us expected, had a good year last year, and the numbers don't look too far off from last year, but if you watched him play, he just didn't look like the same guy. didn't have the same confidence and the same, I don't know, experience coming out of him. Like, he looked off the whole season, and he played fine, but nothing special. And I think a lot of people were hoping for more, getting another year of development in this, starting quarterback system. After that, the Niners, Nick Bosa. I mean, that's really the only guy for them that underperformed, and his numbers are just simply down. Only like 10 sacks or so. That's just not what you want from a guy like this when he's just coming off a Defensive Player of the Year season. You just want more from that. The Rams is going to be Aaron Donald. Had a good year, but not a great year. Last year was not a great year at all. And somehow he's still a 99 overall in Madden and making like Pro Bowls and All-Pro teams somehow. And it's just because of name value. Let's be real. He has not had the greatest years. He's definitely fallen off, and somehow we're still giving him all the praise in the world. Either way, whatever. The Cardinals, going to be the last team in the NFC, and I'm going to have to give it to somebody, but I want to say, this team really didn't disappoint anyone, because you can't disappoint if everyone expected nothing from you in the first place. That's probably the best 4-win team we've ever seen. At least they competed in a lot of games. And, it is what it is, but I'm going to give it to Paris Johnson. Their first overall pick in the draft this year just didn't really play out well. I mean, he wasn't the worst, but just definitely wasn't great in the system, so I've got to see more from him. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to be kind of like how the Vikings were. It's Joe Burrow and T. Higgins. Though T. Higgins did play more of the season, it just seemed like he was constantly in and out of the lineup, didn't really get a chance to establish himself on the season. He had good stats for what he played, but it's just not great. And, you want to see more from your, top-tier wide receiver, even if he is your wide receiver too. Moving on, the Ravens. I'm giving it to both Odell and Rashad Bateman. Only 300 yards on the season. That's just ridiculous. This guy, they were supposed to bring so much help for Lamar, and they didn't do it. Rashad Bateman probably doesn't get another contract in the NFL if I'm picking at least nothing major. He's not done anything in his time in Baltimore. And, Odell, he's just Odell. Whatever. Who cares? After that, the Browns. I'm going to go for the Browns with kind of the same thing as the Bengals and Vikings. It's Deshaun and Nick Chubb. They went to the playoffs at least. They got that far. But you really can't win anything for real without your best two players on the field, just like the Vikings. Deshaun maybe hasn't played well, but let's be real. He hasn't had a chance to get really acclimated into this team. Last year, he played 6 games that he wasn't able to practice with the team before. This year, he gets the training camp, but he gets hurt. Well, let's hope for a year where Deshaun stays healthy, and let's see if he still can be a good quarterback in the league. And for Pittsburgh, the final team in the AFC North, this is going to be, to me, as a Steelers fan, I have to go with Mitch Trubisky, because this is a guy that we brought in prior to drafting Kenny Pickett that maybe should help Kenny develop and maybe should, be able to take some snaps and step in and help win games. And in fact, he didn't. He did the opposite. Every game he played, he lost. He stinks. He's terrible. Why are we paying this guy $8 million? He doesn't deserve $2 million. Get him out of here.
You were my brother, Anakin.
In the AFC East, the Bills. It's going to be the Bills having the weak connection between Allen and Diggs. Like, just the last middle half of the season, it just was, just sad. Like, they didn't connect for more than, 30 yards in multiple games, and it's just, how do you not do that? You've got to get this guy the ball. Diggs, there's no way he just fell off. Something has to be going on. I don't know what it is, but somebody who might have looked into it already, let me know what you think in the comments below. After that, the Jets, I hate to go with another injury, but, the whole disappointment, it's Aaron Rodgers. There's nothing else for this team. Once Aaron Rodgers went down, everybody was like, okay, Jets are over. Let's just go to the next whatever. It doesn't matter. Dolphins, Xavier Howard. Not only did he just get hurt at the end of the season and not play very well, he like I said, he didn't play well in the rest of the season. He just didn't play super well in the year as a whole. So, it's going to go to Xavier Howard. Let's be real. And after that, the New England Patriots. How do you be disappointed in one person when that just happened? You're a Bill Belichick-led team, or at least you were, and this is where we're at now. I'm going to have to say the quarterback play because Mac Jones primarily. You had Mac Jones as a rookie make a Pro Bowl, have really good statistics because he had a good coordinator. And then the next year you lose your coordinator, and this year you bring back a guy who's maybe not the coordinator he had before, but still notably a good offensive mind, and it still stinks. So what's going on? I don't know. I had to have thought that Mac Jones would have done better just because he's getting an offensive guy back in his room, but nope, didn't happen. After that, let's go to the Colts. And for them, it's going to be Anthony Richardson, because while Gardner Minshew did play well, you know, you want to get that development for your rookie, and that just didn't get to happen because of his injuries. Next is the Houston Texans, another team that really had a great year overall and didn't have a whole lot to be upset about. But if you have to pick something, I have to go with Dameon Pierce. I mean, he had a good year last year, and he's been a good running back before. And in the year where their team gets better, he falls off the face of the earth and becomes completely irrelevant to this team outside of one kick return. Like, I don't know what you want, but like that's just unacceptable, to be honest with you. The Tennessee Titans, I'm going to have to say Treylon Burks. They put a first-round pick into him after trading away A.J. Brown, thinking he could be next up for them, and just hasn't happened. I mean, that sucks. He had like 200 yards on 16 catches on the whole year, so not acceptable there. The Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, after last year having as good of a year as he did, you move to this and just what he played like this year, that's just unacceptable. He has to have a big year next year. He might be in some trouble. And for our final division, we're going to start with the Denver Broncos, and I'm going to have to say it's the defense for half the year. Because if that defense was a quarter as good as they were in the last half of the year, in the first half of the year, this team might have won 10 games, 11 games, because they might have been able to survive. But no, that defense was so bad for the first half of the year that it killed their whole team. It literally just destroyed the whole team. The Chargers, a lot of disappointment here, but I'm going to go with Mike Williams because once again, he's injured and out for the season. Like, that's just, it's got to be sickening for the Chargers at this point. They paid this guy, and he cannot stay on the field basically any year. Next is the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's going to be every wide receiver except for Rashee Rice, and I don't have to explain that. And then the Raiders, to me, it's going to be a mix of Josh Jacobs and Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'll say Josh Jacobs mainly because he played the whole season, and he was really good last year as a scrimmage leader last year from rushing, and didn't play well at all this year. I mean, he had like 800 yards, which is subpar, to say the least. And then Jimmy Garoppolo, you bring him in to be a, savvy vet and help the quarterback room, and he effectively does nothing all year. So, not great. You have to move to like 4th or 5th round pick Aiden O'Connell. Just embarrassing, honestly. Alright guys, that'll be it for this tier list. Let me know what you think about the guys in the box above me. Let me know who you think might be the most disappointing player on your team. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so I can give away a jersey at 1,000 subs as soon as possible. Either way, I'll catch you on the next one.